Good morning. I'm very excited to be here at Startup Canada Day on the Hill and to join you as we celebrate Canada's startup community. And I look to a future of Canada that is both entrepreneurial and innovative and a great startup nation. Today, together, we will make an impact on the innovation agenda by ensuring it is designed by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs and that it works for all of Canada. I have been watching Startup Canada closely over the years, and I am so impressed with how this organization has been a unifying force to drive impact and accelerate growth through entrepreneurship. That's why I'm incredibly excited to announce I'm joining Startup Canada as a member of its board of directors. Thank you. Minister Morneau, thank you for your remarks, and thank you for your government's commitment to innovation, to the technology industry, and to our great startup communities. Today is a leap forward in building Canada's innovation agenda because today we are united in our goal of building an innovation nation through this wonderful platform that Startup Canada has made possible. There have been a great deal of conversations recently concerning innovation and competitiveness in Canada over the last little while. People like John Ruffalo, Kevin Lynch, and Dan Herman at the Centre for Digital Entrepreneurship and Economic Performance in Waterloo have all been providing perspectives grounded in research and deep experience both in industry and at a macroeconomic level. In the months leading up to the last federal election, I had encouraged whoever would form the next government to make innovation a ministerial responsibility. I think it's absolutely fantastic that Minister Bains has taken up this challenge, one that many of us will grapple with as we try and picture what the Canada of tomorrow will look like and what our roles will be in building this country to be more competitive and prosperous for all. But before I elaborate on any of that, I'd like to take you back to the lobby of the Comfort Inn in Niagara Falls, Ontario, 18 years ago. I was a recent university grad and I had just secured a $50,000 small business loan from the Royal Bank. I didn't know anything about anything, but I sure thought that I did. And this was in the days before tech entrepreneurs wore hoodies and sandals. So there I was in a suit, a relatively cheap suit, I may say, for all afternoon in 35-degree weather, waiting for the manager of the Comfort Inn to finally speak with me so I could persuade him to buy the long-distance services I was selling. And this process repeated itself over and over and over and over and over and over. And that was the humble beginnings of what is now Globalive. The reason I bring this example up is because it's important to remember that in our community, unicorns are very much the exception rather than the rule. In many cases, new ventures are shoestring operations held together with a tiny bit of capital and, of course, a big, big dream. I believe we must support the startup community, create an entrepreneurship environment that produces more new ventures and more new innovation. And finally, we must do more to ensure our startups stay right here in Canada. I don't see any reason why the next multi-billion-dollar company can't be started and grow right here in Canada. You can tell I'm very proud of what Canada has done and the companies we've built, and I believe we have a very bright future ahead. But let's make no mistake, we are in fierce competition for both investment and talent, and we are in for a very tough fight. So here are some of my thoughts on what we can do, and I'm going to break it into three areas. One, what we need from government, what we need from industry, and what we need from the startup community. Firstly, from government, tax policy. We need a competitive tax policy. We're in competition with jurisdictions around the world for both investment and talent, whether it's Silicon Valley, Israel, Estonia, or London. We are in serious competition for investment and talent. It is encouraging that the government recognizes the role that technology entrepreneurs play and is built in building the prosperity of tomorrow, and must recognize the tremendous risk that both entrepreneurs and their team members take when launching a new venture. A competitive stock option regime is critical to ensuring that startups have both a means to recognize the risk team members are taking, but also reward them alongside shareholders when a startup venture is successful. The federal budget has a renewed focus on innovation and has left the system of tax credits for stock options unchanged. And I would encourage the federal government to give the startup community the reassurance that this will be the policy long term. Secondly, economic development. When you look at the people the Prime Minister has appointed to his cabinet and other key positions, it's very apparent that this is a government reflective of Canada today and tomorrow. And I would encourage the government and the provincial governments to be equally forward-looking when it comes to business, incentives, and economic development. I'd encourage governments to err on the side of supporting the job creators of tomorrow. The Canadian small businesses and startups, as opposed to mature companies, those with the companies with the means to succeed on their own, or even worse, those that are in declining or obsolete industries. Thirdly, infrastructure. The federal government has spoken a great deal about the link between infrastructure and economic development. I couldn't agree more that efficient and reliable infrastructure is tied to competitiveness. Very importantly, we must focus on our technology infrastructure. Broadband networks and upcoming 5G wireless networks will play a critical role in bolstering our global competitiveness. And I would encourage the government and regulators to continue to open the wireless sector for innovation and competition. And this is something that I know a little bit about. Education. Our system of education and our government must equip our young entrepreneurs coast to coast with the core skills they need to be competitive. There are now a number of excellent accelerator and incubator programs out there, whether it's the Next 36, the Creative Destruction Lab, the Hatchery Communitech, and everything in between. But it is no secret that Canada lags behind when it comes to STEM education. I encourage the federal government to emphasize the role of education in building an innovative and competitive economy in its discussions with the provinces. So what do we need from industry? Firstly, R&D. In the same way we are calling on the government to continue to support innovation in research and development, industry must do the same. Be bold, take risks, and when it comes to R&D, be champions of Canada and the potential of people here. And secondly, be prepared. On the subject of being bold, a recent study released by SAP indicates that industry here is unprepared for the digital economy. Dozens and dozens of interviews with executives in our largest companies revealed that while a majority recognized the need for digital transformation, only 17% had integrated digital transformation into their corporate strategies. I don't view this as a positive sign. I would encourage you to be as nimble and as entrepreneurial as the people in this room. Your future depends on it. Thirdly, a message to the VC community. In Canada, we're now great at supporting startup ventures with great incubators and accelerators across this country. And we're also great at supporting ventures that have already been proven viable with solid revenue growth and a healthy bottom line. But it's in between these 2 points, when a company is just starting to gain momentum, just starting to get traction. This is when our VC community must make very bold bets on Canadian companies to help them grow and prosper right here in Canada. And lastly, what do we need from the startup community? Be bold. Canadians, unfortunately, have a reputation of being cautious, polite, and sometimes timid. Often when I'm in a room with Canadian startups, I never get a hard sell for investment. US startups that I meet, on the other hand, are aggressive and hungry. So Canadian startups, you've got to be more aggressive, more hungry. You've got to take more risks. You've got to be willing to fail. These are the qualities that lead to true innovation. And as you try, fail, try again, and succeed, I'm asking you to stay in Canada. The allure of Silicon Valley can be strong, but I think you're better off developing and commercializing a business right here at home. Canada's a great sandbox to play in to develop and commercialize ideas before you take them global. Raise capital abroad or in Silicon Valley, raise capital abroad as I have done, but consider building your company here in Canada. What the presence of ministers like Morneau here today demonstrates is that there are a lot of people that want you to be successful. A lot of people here to support you. The government, the venture capital industry, and of course, your fellow entrepreneurs. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share the stage and share my thoughts. I am very proud of Canada's startup community, of Startup Canada, its members and communities. There is a great deal of potential in this room, a very high concentration of talent, ingenuity, and enthusiasm. To the organizers, my colleagues and partners at Startup Canada, and to Minister Morneau, thank you for your commitment to our industry and for your recognition of our industry's role and character of Canada, driving innovation and building prosperity for tomorrow. Thank you very much.